So this is not really a how-to, but it's more of a just how I did it. Okay, so here I have a Herman Aeron chair that I bought used because I like to sit close to my desk. I also play instruments. I don't want the armrest on it. I searched pretty extensively on the internet, on YouTube, different forums. Some people were using blowtorches, all kinds of crazy stuff. It's not easy. I tried to just unscrew it, it doesn't work. But what I eventually decided was I just would rather not have the armrest period and don't plan to put them back on. So here's a method you can actually take them off. This method is destructive. We'll be sawing through the bolt on the chair, so you cannot put it back on. And another disclaimer, I'm not responsible if you hurt yourself or break your chair. I'm sorry. So I am not an expert. This is just a method that I figured out with the tab pull armrest. Apparently the other ones that have the cogwheel looking ones, those are really simple and you can just unscrew them. These kind with the tab pull, which are the newer model, are made to be non-removable, where they have a screw that you can get to, but it endlessly turns. You can see right now that one has been removed already, and I've got another one that I'm going to be removing, and you can see here kind of the thing. There's this big bolt that endlessly turns as you attempt to loosen it. So what I decided was I would just use the hacksaw to cut through it. Literally took me a little while, let's say about 30 minutes or so, because you've got these other two steel pieces to cut through. But it, you know, hey, day's work. To get to this bolt, you've got to unscrew, see these? There's one there, there's one there, there's one there. There's 4 different screws. Just kind of unscrew them like this. I used a 3/16 Allen wrench. After you do that, the back will just slide right out. Here is the screw right here that holds in the armrest. You can see this plate that's in front of it. There's several other things behind it. The initial issue is you have to get the saw down in here in the seam, and it's too tight right now, so we're going to do some things to loosen it on the side, and then that lets us get to the bolt and just chop it off. Okay, so what I'm doing here is this little part that actually lets you lock the armrest in place kind of tightens this whole part to here. So what we're doing is plastic. It's really hard plastic, but you can break it with a hammer. Take it, putting some towels down, turning the chair where you got force downward, and you just smack it a lot and it'll start to crack. I've also got a pair of pliers so that I can grab at different pieces and get it all off. It's completely circular around the bolt area. So once we remove all that, it'll give us some more room. Okay, you can see now where I've snapped a good bit of it off here, that piece. See what's underneath it, and then we've got a little bit of piece here. So what we'll do is just keep taking the pliers. This whole section right here, this is all the armrest, so it doesn't matter if you hit it with a hammer and you make some dings. I mean, that was the point of this. This is very this whole method is very destructive, but it will get the armrest removed from the chair. So the bolt in here, it is a T27 Torx screw. I got it on Amazon for like $2 or $3. You will need a ratchet because there's a lot of tension on it. You're probably not going to be able to get it with just a typical manual screwdriver. Break off the other part of the clip there, but I couldn't get to it. But if I turn this screw, it actually will turn this piece, because it's still connected to it, it'll turn it around where you can get to the other part of it and hit that with a hammer and the pliers or whatever you got. So with a lot of banging and a pair of needle nose pliers, I like to grab the less little bits left on it. You know, the more you break off, the easier it gets. You have to hit it really hard, but once you get a good crack in it, it will just kind of start to fall apart. So now this whole thing is exposed, and like I said, the big thing is it's giving us room. See, now this whole thing moves. There's space right here where we can fit in that hacksaw blade and get to the bolt. So right here, there's a piece of, and then there's another seam in between the actual thing right there. That's where you want to get the, yeah, so you can see the saw blades going between those two. That's where you want to get that between. And also you probably want to put, taking a washcloth, I can hold this washcloth with my left hand away from it and also kind of helps brace the chair. As I saw, for just a little bit of sawing, the blade is now basically vertical, so that way we're aiming to saw through. So you're kind of like sawing that direction, which means you're going to saw through the two braces and the bolt, and then once we get through that, the arm's just going to fall right off. Well, now you can see the arm is gone. I was going to film it, but it fell off before I expected it to. It's really hard to saw and brace it and hold the camera. Anyway, so this is what it looks like. You can see here I went a little bit too far over with the saw and actually started cutting back, but regardless, the point was to get to this bolt in the center, which is actually what holds the arm on. There's a bolt right there, and you can see that plate on the other side that had the screw that we were endlessly turning. Here's that plastic piece that goes between here, fits in like here, and that's what we put the saw on this side of it, so that way we wouldn't damage, you know, the actual part of the chair that's going to be there and scrape it up with a saw. And it just fits in like that, and you are putting the saw in between right here and getting it around so where you can get to the bolt and just kind of go like that. Takes about 30 minutes, took a lot of rest breaks, but I got it. Like I said, you just take your time. You got 2 of them to do. But the great thing is that you get your chair how you want it. Okay, this is the final result of removing both of the arms from the chair. And you can see it looks just as awesome as it did before, just with no arms.